Hi, folks. It's Gary here, your face and voice of the Fourth Official, and it's a very warm welcome back to us here on the Fourth Official after what has been a very eventful week at Rangers, starting off with the news last week that 49ers Enterprises are locked in talks regarding a takeover at the club, followed by the hapless defeat to St Mirren at the weekend, which saw Philippe Clement finally removed from position. And yesterday, the news broke regarding Barry Ferguson being appointed on an interim basis until the end of the season. Now, we reported yesterday that Barry will be supported by coaches Issam Chirai, who's already there, and returning ex-Rangers players Neil McCann, Billy Dodds and Alan McGregor. And I think it's fair to say that it was a fairly left field appointment, but one that the more you read about it and the more you think about it seems to make a little bit more sense in terms of, given the noise in or around the club at the moment, it was only really going to be someone that had some element of a connection towards the club. Very similar to what happened 10 years ago when Stuart McCall took over after the disastrous reign of Kenny McDowell, following Alan McCoist's going on gardening leave. And whilst the atmosphere at the club is not quite as downbeat as it was during the end of the Kenny McDowell era and when Stuart McCall took over, when Rangers were in the First Division and obviously failed to get up through the playoffs that season before Mark Warburton would take control and finally win the First Division and get Rangers promoted back to the Premiership. It needed someone that had that sort of emotional call that would come back and help out for 3 months and try and lift the spirits around the club and give them something to play for and remind them of the standards that are expected of being a Rangers player. And that was something that certainly was stated within Barry Ferguson's interview, which was released on Rangers TV last night. Barry mentioning that it was a great honour for him to come and be asked to take over even on a temporary basis. Barry stating that he'd been happy doing what he'd been doing over the last 2 or 3 years since he came out of coaching back at the club, being an ambassador, and but he couldn't turn the job down. Said it was his job to get a kick out of the players because when you watch them, I think there's really good players there. And it will be interesting to see what kind of a tune he gets out of players such as Nadine Bayrami, who very much appeared to kind of lose his way under Philippe Clement, a real kind of lack of confidence, a real lack of effort at times from him as well. So interesting to see if he can get a tune out of him. When Barry was asked if he'd spoken to anyone about taking the job, he spoke about speaking to people that he respected in the game. People that he trusted their judgment, and they saw how excited he was to get back out onto the training pitch and spending a bit of time with the players. And given how successful Barry Ferguson was as a Rangers player, 5 league titles, 5 cups, it was kind of deemed that someone like that, that's got that sort of background and been able to be a bit of a figurehead, obviously allow the likes of Issam Chirai and Neil McCann to try and lead some of the kind of training. But Barry had spoken about obviously the fact that he'd watched Rangers at many occasions this season in his role, obviously as a columnist for the Daily Record, a pundit on the Go Radio Sports Show, and he stated that he'd seen Rangers obviously being inconsistent this season, doing very well in Europe. Some of the performance he stated had been top class, but domestically that's your bread and butter. That's where you've got to go and win most weeks, and that's where Rangers haven't been too good at. There's been too many bumps in the road, and Barry stating that it's his job and the staff's job to try and get a level of consistency into the squad. Stating once again that there's definitely quality players within there and that they look flat at this moment in time. And it's his job to obviously try and get that confidence back up. He stated that it's a privilege to be walking into the training centre. He wants the players to enjoy their training, but he expects the training to be tough, but he wants it to be enjoyable. And then when it comes to the 90 minutes, it's all about winning. That's how he was brought up, and that's the way that he wants his players to be. You have to win every game. The demands and the expectations put on you when people come to watch you, they expect you to win games, and I don't think that we have won enough this year. Obviously, Billy Dodds and Neil McCann coming in, they've got previous experience at Scottish level with the likes of Dundee and Inverness Kelly Thistle, Queen of the South, so they've got a bit of coaching pedigree in there. Obviously, Alan McGregor will come in to work alongside the Rangers goalkeepers, with Colin Stewart having departed. And it's all about that kind of raising the profile and kind of raising the standards and trying to get a tune out of players that so far this season have massively underachieved, especially domestically. And it's interesting that the first game of the Barry Ferguson era is tomorrow down at Kilmarnock against old friend Derek McInnes. Obviously, a man who's been long suggested as being someone who could be a Rangers manager of the future. And I think if you'd spoken to Derek McInnes maybe a few years ago, that he would have said that he was more likely to be Rangers manager before Barry Ferguson was. Just interesting how things turn out that way. Loads coming up here on the fourth official over the coming days. Tomorrow night after the Kilmarnock game over on our Patreon channel, that's www.patreon.com/the fourth official. You'll get all the post-match reaction from Barry Ferguson's first game in charge of Rangers down at Kilmarnock. And then something different on Thursday over on Patreon is the return of our squad game series, as Jenna Thompson, a Motherwell fan, will start her selection of her ultimate 26-man Motherwell squad. So that will be with you towards the end of the week. And it's nice timing, given that Motherwell are the next opponents to Rangers at Ibrox at the weekend. Big thank you to you all for watching. I'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.